Welcome to part 2 of creating your first responsive web page using HTML5 and CSS. This is where we left off in part 1. We just did the raw HTML, and you'll notice we have the title of the page, a banner, some links for our navigation. It's a completely unstyled page though, and the title of our sections and our article titles, and another section and more article titles. A sidebar or an aside would be the correct HTML5 name, and the footer info. So now we're getting into what I consider to be the most fun part of creating web pages, is the CSS. I love it. That's all I can say. I'm a geek. What can I say? Alright, this is the raw code. The code snippets are at my website, skeeterz71.com, along with the images. Images I took personally at a seafood festival. There is no license attached to them. You can use them if you want to follow along this course. You can use them for whatever you want to. I don't care. Alright, so let's get into designing for the CSS part. We'll move this over here. Alright, this is my CSS page. It's called responsive.css. You'll notice up here I have it linked to my HTML page right here, responsive.css. Alright, first thing I like to do, everybody's got different ways of doing things. Well, let's start with the consensus of the community is nowadays is to design mobile first. That means you design for the smartphone and all your media queries are written out to the bigger screen. I've never been a fan of that. I just never have. Because the natural order of HTML is just, when you write it the raw way, is for the big screen. So I still go from big screen and media query it down to the small screens. That's just the way I do things. You don't have to do them that way. But that's the way we're going to do them in this video, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it that way either. But some of your more responsive frameworks, such as Bootstrap, and I think Zerb, and a few others, they go for mobile first, and their media queries are written out from there. But I'm completely reverse in this video. Just going to let you know that straight up, and it's just really a matter of preference, I think. So let's start with first thing I like to do is I like to take a look at what I have and kind of get everything sitting where it needs to sit before I go actually styling anything. So the very first thing I see is I got my main section. If you remember, I have main with my two sections in it with my 4 articles inside, and then I have my side and my footer. So first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and get those all located in the right areas. So let's start with some browsers need you to tell them that the HTML5 elements on your page need to be displayed as block. Internet Explorer is notorious for that, especially with the main tag. Some of the others it handles well on its own without being told, but the main it won't. I'm going to give you a demonstration. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and there's basically 7 HTML5 tags we're going to go ahead and display as blocks. So we got we're going to start from the top. We got header, and then we got navigation, which is nav, and then we got main, and we got section, and article, aside, and footer. That's 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's 7. And we're going to do display block. I'm going to show you what happens if you don't do this. So let's go ahead and give main and the sidebar a width. Okay, so let's go main. and let's give it a width of 75%. Remember, we're working responsively. We're working in percentages, not fixed pixels, okay? So we're going to give it a max width, 75%. Oops, that's not a percent, is it? There we go. And we're going to give a side we'll give it a max with 25%. What we're telling the browser to do is we don't want the area to take up more than 75% for main or more than 25% for a side, but it's going to, if we give it a just straight up width, it would be fixed at 75% on main and 25% on a side. It wouldn't allow it to respond. That's why we're doing max width here instead of just straight up width. So let's go ahead and save that. Let's refresh the browser. And you'll notice now that remember our main was all the way over here, and it is now shrunk up to 75%. No big change here, but I want to take main out, and I want to show you up here. Right, if I take main out, remember we're showing 75% right now. Let me take that out of there and refresh. Completely ignores Internet Explorer, completely ignores that max width setting if I don't have main displayed as blocked. That's why I told you need to do that. Okay, now we want the aside to be on the right side, so we're going to float it right. And let's take a look. But you'll notice it's at the bottom. It's not up top, but it is to the right. That's where we're getting close. Well, we need to go ahead and take main and float it to the left so the aside can go ahead and pull up to the right. So we're going to float main to the left. And there we go. Now I want you to look right here. Footer followed it right up to the top, didn't it? Well, that's because when you float things, you need to clear floats. And what clear floats does is put like a block level line in between the elements so they can't violate each other's space. I often refer to it as sticking a 2x4 in between the two. That's one good way to look at it. So we're going to take footer. And we're going to clear both. Put that 2x4 in there. That should push the footer back down to the bottom where it belongs. And you notice it did. Okay, so we got our floats cleared right there for now. We got some more clearing to do. So let's start with some basic stuff we need. We're going to do some resets. I don't want the browser assigning the padding and margins on my heading tags, my H1s through H6s. I want to assign that myself. So we're going to do a simple reset. I'm using H1 through H3. So I'm going to come right under here. Actually, I'm going to go right above. It's going to be the first thing. H1, comma, H2, comma, H3. Margin 0 px. You don't need to put px when you're using 0. However, I just make it a habit to do everything the same no matter what, because it's not going to hurt, and it's a good habit to be in. Because if you go like do 23 without the px and you need pixels, you're not getting pixels. You're not getting it. It's got to be 23 px. So I put 0 px, and for padding 0 px. Now, take a look at where these heading tags are and watch what happens when I refresh. See, it removes the margin and padding that's built in to all the browsers, and they got their own formula or whatever it is. We'll reset them all to 0, so everything will display the same in every browser. Next thing we're going to go do is we're going to go ahead and work on the body, and we're going to set a font. So body, font family, and we'll use browser safe Arial. And if Arial, like if you're on a Mac, you probably don't have it, we're going to put a sans serif. So that'll be the fallback font. So let's take a look, make sure that worked, and it did. Now on the body also, I'm going to go ahead and set a width to the body, and I want my width to be well, actually first, before we set the width, let's go ahead and set a font size. Remember, I like to do everything incrementally, so I always, when I make a change, I like to refresh my browser. And we're really going to notice this down here. There you go. Font size changed, and let's go ahead and set a max width. We'll say, the reason why I've set the max width is because I'm going to want to center the body area in the page, and you got to have a width to do that. To use margin 0 auto, which is common for that, you have to have a width set. So I'll set max width at say 1200 pixels. It can be less, it will respond to less, but it won't be any bigger than that. Okay, so let's take a look. Alright, you notice it moved off the right side there, but it's still not centered. So we're going to go ahead and center that up. Margin 0 auto is a very common way to do it. Save that and refresh. And there you see it centered up. Oh, I haven't set my image stuff yet, have I? That's why it's doing that. Let's work on the banner then next, okay? Because it's throwing the whole page out of whack, isn't it? So let's set our image to a max width of 100%. That's saying the image can be up to 100% of its size, because when you're doing responsive design, you do not set widths and heights on your images. Don't do it, because it will ruin the responsiveness. But we're saying it can go up to 100% of its actual size, but it's going to have to respond to fit the container, the viewport that it's in. And there we go. So we now have our banner set. We have our sidebar where it needs to be. Everything's where it needs to be. So it's time to start doing a little styling. So we're going to set some properties for our H1, 2, and 3 tags. I want to change the font family. I want it to be different. So we're going to go. Oh wait, before I do that, I'm looking at my notes. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and set a background color to the body. And it could be background hyphen color, that's fine. Background shorthand for all that, and that's what I personally like to use. So EBE, BE0, EBE, BE0. Save that. Whoops. There we go. There we just give it just a really light tint of gray there for the background. Alright, I think we're done with the body stuff. So let's go with the H1 through H3 tags. So H1 separated by a comma, H2 separated by a comma, H3 you don't need a comment in. If you put one in, it ruins everything. So we're going to change the font family on this. We'll go Lucida, Lucida, console. And when a font family is named 2 words, you have to have the little, these at the end. And we're going to separate by comma for fallback. M-O-N-A-C-O, Monaco, comma, monospace. And remember, when you're setting fonts, it goes in the order you wrote them. If your computer's got the Lucida console on it, and it will display it Monaco. If it doesn't, it will see if it has Monaco. If not, monospace. Everybody's computer's going to have one of those three. So if you were to write it reverse and you have monospace first, and that's what's going to display, and everybody's computer's got that. Alright, so that's how that works. So you see our heading tags, the way they look now. And there they are, changed. Let me take that out again. I didn't see the change. Hold on. Yeah. Wow, that was so quick I didn't even see it. So there we go. So let's make sure we got that. Now I'm going to set the sizes. Well, actually, first I'm going to set. Remember, we removed the actual padding, but I'm going to set padding because I do want padding on there. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to do padding all the way around of 10 pixels. And there we go. And we're going to set the font sizes now. Give me some room to work here. Alright, let's go ahead and set font sizes for all these heading tags. So H1, we're going to set it to 32 pixels. And start over. Alright, let's set the font sizes for everything. So we'll go H1 font size. .32 pixels. And I'm just going to copy and paste this and adjust stuff. So H1, this will be H2 and H3. And we're going to make H2 26 pixels. And H3 will be 21 pixels. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. Let's take a look at what we got. Remember, this is an H1, H2, and H3 right here. Okay? So let's see how that changes out. And there we go. We got our changes. Now, one thing I do want to do with my paragraphs on this particular page, you notice my paragraphs, I want them justified, and I want a little bit of padding around them. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. We'll give it 10 pixels of padding. And we're going to text align. Justify. And let's take a look at what we got here. And there we go. You see our text is justified now. We got our padding everywhere. Now, next thing I want to do is I want us to look at this navigation. This here navigation. We don't want it to be that way. But we also have another. That's an unordered list. We have an unordered list here too. So we're going to get into a little bit about Descendant selectors here, so we can see how we can target some things and leave other things alone. Okay. So both of these are unordered lists. And I want the bullets removed from both of them, so we're just going to do a simple unordered list, list style, none. Now that should affect both of them. Yes, we got them here, and we got here. Let's see what happens when we refresh. Alright, the bullets are gone from both lists. However, I want these links here to go horizontal, while I want these links here to remain vertical. Remember, both of these are unordered lists. Excuse me, unordered lists. But I'm about to make a rule that I don't want to affect this one down here on quick links. Okay, we'll show you. It's called Descendant Selectors. If we go back and look at the HTML, we see that the navigation unordered list with the list items have the href links inside the list items in the navigation column, right? When we go down here, we see it's a straight up unordered list item with the href links in between the list items. So how do we distinguish the two? Well, we distinguish the two because these are enclosed in the navigation right there. So let me show you how we do this. Whoop, wrong one. Alright, to target the navigation items and get them to go horizontal, and while ignoring the quick links, which we want to remain vertical, we're going to use the Descendant selector, and we're going to start with the nav, space, unordered list, space, list item. That's how you create a Descendant selector. That says anything that is located in the nav that is an unordered list with a list item, apply this rule to it. And only that area will this rule be applied. So we're going to display inline. And let's refresh. And now they're going horizontal, while we notice our quick links remain vertical. That's how you can target, get specific about where you want to target by using Descendant selectors. There's another one called child selectors. We're not going to be using it in this video, but it can get even more specific than Descendant selectors. You can get really targeted with child selectors. So now we need some space in between these, right? And we need to affect this unordered list with the list items without affecting this one down here and doing it. But we're going to go just real simple. We're going to go nav space list item, and because those are links, anchor tag, we want to put a right padding of, say, 8 pixels. Padding right, 8 px. Let's see what we got. And there we go. We get a little bit of space in between them. Now we want to do something with these links and these links at the same time. We were using Descendant selectors, but we want to, get them both on this rule. So we're going to ignore the Descendant selector. We're going to remove the lines from underneath them. I don't like lines, so we're going to just go anchor link, the A link, text decoration, none. That should remove the lines under both of them. And it did. Now, I like that. I like for people to know what they're doing. I like to create a reaction of some sort of response from the page whenever the user is doing something. So if they're hovering over a link, I want them to be aware of it visually, other than the finger pointing up. So we're going to use a pseudo selector. It's called A, hover. And we're going to give it a color of brown. That just happens to be my favorite color for doing this with. And look at that. When we hover over it, they now turn colors on both sides. Now, just to let you know, pseudo selectors, the hover link A hover needs to come after the A active, or A and A visited, A hovered has to come after those. If you don't, it's not going to work. Okay, let's get back to, I should have put this up in the earlier one. Okay, so we're going to go to the, we only have one H1 tag. So we're going to deal with the header H1 tag. We're going to change the color of the background on it. Because we know we only have one H1 tag, we don't need to target it specifically with a descendant selector. We can use just H1 because it's the only one on the page. So we're going to go H1, background. Remember, background is short for background hyphen color. B, 3B, 3A, 7. Hopefully I typed that right. Okay, and there it is. So we have our different color there. Next thing we want to do is we're going to work within our articles here and sections and whatnot. So let's work on the article images to start with. They need a little bit of margin, top and bottom. So let's go with article IMG. That's our descendant selector. And we're going to give it a margin, right? Let's say 25 pixels. And a margin bottom. And we'll say 15 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Alright. And now, in order to get the text to come up in line with it, we'll need to float those images to the left. So we're going to do a float left. And you'll notice the text come up kind of wraps with it now. And you see how our margins affected it and everything. Now at this point, I like to start using other browsers to look at things. So we're going to take a look, make sure everything's looking good in Chrome. And it is in Firefox. Okay, so we're looking good so far in everything. Alright, so now we're going to let's change the color of our article background. Keep messing up. Let's change to white. And there we go. And so we got separation there. I don't like the separation between the articles. I do like it between the sections. So let's see what we can do about that. Let's take a look. Let's inspect it. Because I didn't have this in my notes, but I didn't catch it. Let me see here. Let's go ahead and inspect this. Okay. Okay, I'm back. I have solved the problem. I had to go inspect it a little bit in my browser. I needed to put a margin 0 all the way around on the paragraph tag. If you remember, I had this space here. I didn't really want that. I've gotten rid of it. So we refresh this. You can see how that's fixed that. So we have arts and crafts. Everything's divided up very well. I like it. And so now it's time to we're going to change the background of the footer real quick. Get it right color. Alright, let's check this, make sure everything's right. And there, our footer and header are the same colors. Okay, now it's time. Let's just take a look at what it does right now when we shrink everything. Everything kind of responds. Gets really mashed in there. And we don't want it to do that. So we're going to use media queries. Couple media queries. And I like to make a note about my media queries. I put them at the bottom. And the first media query we're going to use is going to deal with the sidebar and the main and their float. So we're going to do at media and max width. You may wonder where I'm getting these max widths and stuff from. I tend to go along with what Bootstrap, and go to getbootstrap.com, look at their CSS, you can get their media queries. I tend to go along with theirs. You can certainly do a whole lot more than that, target even more devices. But for overall, their sizes that they set are pretty good, and that's what I use for right now everything. So we're going to go at media max width at 992 pixels, which is tablet size. Whoops, you don't put that on there. There we go. And inside your media query, you write your rules. So first thing we need to do, you remember we floated main to the left and the sidebar to the right. At 992, which is tablet width, we need to remove those floats. So we're going to go main, float, none. And we're going to give it a max width of 90%. Right, you remember it was 75%, but we're going to go to 90%. And I'm going to want to center it up on the page. So we're going to do margin 0 auto. And we need to make sure we close our rule here. And we're going to want to do something similar to the side, because you remember we floated it to the right. So we're going to go side. Break that apart. And the side we're going to do float none. And if you remember, we had a size of 25%. Well, we're going to want to change that to 90%. So to be in line with the above main. So to be same size as the above main. Max width 90%. And see, we're going to want to do margin 0 auto as well. Now remember, margins only work when you add width and it's on a block level element. Margin 0 auto for centering. So let's see what that looks like so far. We'll refresh so we get our new CSS rules incorporated. Oh, it's too much. Alright, you see right there, this sidebar disappeared from the right. And it's went straight to the bottom. And there's something wrong here. So what I got going on wrong here? There's something wrong, and that's what happens when you don't stick your semicolon at the end. That's why you got to get in the habit of doing it every time. So let's refresh that. There we go. Now it's lining back up. And we're going to go ahead and see what we got here. Actually, I wanted to change that side color, didn't I? So we're going to change that side color real quick so we can see better what we're doing. So we'll change that to BBB. Where's it at? There it is. Background. Alright, there. Of course, we needed to change our header colors too. I'm sorry, I missed some stuff. I'm going to change some colors real quick. So let's go to the H2s. Let's change color H2. Save that. There we go. Much better. Much better. Helps us see what we're doing a little bit better. I do apologize about that. I completely skipped that part. So anyhow, we'll notice when we break it down to 992, that's tablet size, we now have everything lining up, centered up on the bottom. Now there's one more thing I want to do before I finish this video. Let's deal with the banner, because look at the banner right now. You can go smaller, 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 smaller till it's just so small it's not worth a darn. Plus, on smaller screens, screen real estate really is a premium. So we don't really need the banner on smartphone size. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of it. It's the last thing I want to do, and we'll be finished. And that's why I created that banner pane ID and stuck it in that div. So we're going to do that media. And max width. And remember, it can't be, if it's any bigger than what I'm doing right in this rule 4, it's not going to affect it. So we'll say 768 pixels. And we're going to put our 2 curly braces there, and inside that rule, we're going to do my idea banner pane. Again, 2 curly brackets, display. Now save that, and let's go back out. Let's refresh, get our new CSS in. And you'll see it at a certain, there it goes. At that point right there, that banner quits displaying. You can do all kinds of stuff with media queries that is really cool. If I wanted to, I could have completely hid the sidebar, had new code come up at the bottom, completely new code. Hid that one, showed the other one at different display sizes. It's just really cool. If this has helped you, how about giving me a like or a comment or subscribing or a share? I would appreciate it. For more web and graphic design video tutorials, visit my site at skeeters71.com. Not all of them that I have are on YouTube, just letting you know right now. But they are all free. You have a good day.